WFC. I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is K5KTX. My name is Kelley, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. It is about 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts, and we may or may not get to all of them depending on how much time we have. We start with general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, such as where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, what can you see in the sky tonight, a featured constellation or object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and 73 around. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We are going to start with round one, which is low power and or short time check-ins. If you are low power and or short time, please come now with your call sign, slowly and phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from.
This is number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, long time.
Let me start with that one. WB4MFI, Ted, welcome back to the net, and glad that you're going to be long time. Do we have any other low power and or short time check-ins? Please come now. Call sign slowly and phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Louisville.
Papa, right?
Out in Coppell.
Kilo Golf 5, Vector Julio Papa, Robert Richardson.
This is Whiskey Row 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto. This is Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville.
Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
This is November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Okay, I think I have a mute on my hands, but okay. So we have KE5, ICX, sorry, long day today. Tom in Louisville, KG5P, Mike, K5 JDW, John, KG5VJP, Robert, WB5 OZL, Brenda, KC5 OZT, Carolyn, KF5 ZBL, Bill, NT5TM, Tony, and N5BB, Bill. Do we have any other RF check-ins? Please come now with your call sign slowly and phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Golf 5, Quebec, X-Ray India, Glenn in Rockwell.
All right, KG5, QXI, Glenn in Rockwall. Let's go ahead and move over to Echolink. If there's anyone on Echolink who has audio and would like to check in, please come now with your call sign slowly and phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. If you're not able to transmit, just go ahead and put that in the chat window and I will get you checked in. So Echolink check-in.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu Whiskey.
Let me get those. I have KE5JIT Randy, who has no audio, and he's in Louisville. And then we have KG5BZWJ, And KG5ZCT, David over in Frisco, also has no audio. All right, let's do an open round of check-ins before we move on. Anybody who would like to check in any mode, please come now with your call sign slowly and phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Romeo, Foxtrot, Victor, Richard, and Rowlett.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
All right, and I got KF5RFV, Richard, and W5EBB, David, over in Dallas. So if you did not get to check in, we will come back and do some additional check-ins in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and get started. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
All right, go ahead, Tony.
Very much. We have a lot of stuff coming up in the near future. I hope everyone will have a look at the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Facebook group and W5FC.org. We have one more net tonight, the Afterglow Movie. We'll talk about Starship Invasions from 1977. It's a really exciting masterpiece of something, maybe of elevator music, I'm not sure what, but it must be a masterpiece of something, and we'll talk about it tonight, right here at 10:30. For $20, you get the dongle and a neat little, you get the receiver and a neat little dongle to connect it to your antenna. We'll be talking about what software to use and how to make it work and get the most fun out of it. You need $20 and any computer, a PC, a Mac, or a Raspberry Pi. It doesn't matter. If it has a USB port, you can have fun with this thing. Have a couple of other things on the list. GeekNet will be coming up this Monday. Any topic that you like to geek out about is welcome right here on this repeater at 7 p.m. And finally, Tuesday, May 1st. I don't know how I got that date earlier. I guess I had Cinco de Mayo on the brain. But Tuesday, May 1st is the next club meeting. We'll be at the Dallas Medical Center at 7 p.m., northeast corner of Webb Chapel and LBJ, focusing on the FT8 digital node. We'll have a neat presentation from a member of the Plano Amateur Radio Club talking about what this mode is, how it works, what it isn't, and demonstrating what a QSO looks like. So lots of great stuff coming up. This is NT5TM.
Thank you for that, Tony. And I wanted to go ahead and recognize one additional check-in over on Echolink, KD5YPC, Tim, who is in Lindell. And I was almost in Lindell today, so know exactly where that's at. All right, Tony mentioned the lecture in lab. I have a few more details about that I guess I will bring to you. Sounds very interesting. So the next lecture in lab will delve into the software-defined radio, or SDR receiver. We'll be using the venerable RTL2832AD chip in an inexpensive USB dongle. You've seen them, but you've never played around with one. Well, now you can. Bring $20 exact change to purchase a new gen RTL2832 SDR. This unit is good from 25 megahertz to 1760 megahertz and will tune in on general radio scanning, air traffic control, public safety radio, ADS-B aircraft radar, AIS boat radar, ACARS trunk radio, P25 moto, TRBO, digital voice, and much more. So please bring $20 for the dongle, and it's yours to take home. There will be 10 available, so come early. Bring a 2-meter mobile antenna with PL259 and ground plane. A mag mount is perfect. However, we can do some things without an and antenna. And, of course, your computer running Linux, Windows, or Macintosh. If you already have an RTL SDR dongle, bring it. It will probably work with the software we'll be using. So our next lecture in lab is next Saturday, April the 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The location is the Dallas Medical Center. The address is 7 Medical Parkway in Farmers Branch. And we will be meeting in the 3rd floor conference room, and there's free parking out front. And, of course, all the details are on W5FC.org's website. And then, just as a reminder about the AMSAT nets that are happening each week, the first one is on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You will need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. AMSAT.net is every Wednesday evening at 9 o'clock p.m. on the Arlington Repeater 147.140 megahertz, PL tone of 110.9, positive offset. If you've ever been interested in any kind of AMSAT, radio amateur satellites, and those are the nets to participate in. Tony also mentioned the Afterglow Movie net is coming right up here, right after this net at 10:30 p.m. So, Tom, KE5ICX, can you tell us about this week's exciting movie?
Oh, Miss Kelley, I certainly can, and I will. Everyone listen carefully. This is important. Captain Ramesses, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was a quality commander and an important member of the Legion of the Winged Serpent. He had been a 3-time sergeant at arms at club meetings, making sure they started on time and ended as expected, with domination of local star systems. He was also in charge of the Galactic Circus of the Stars, which included the mini spaceship roundup, and getting over 100 aliens shoved into a tiny space pod, only to pop out to the delight of small children. He appeared at the blue Earth below, nodding knowingly that he would change their lives forever. He barked his order, "Inflate the fleet! Our day is now!" Join us for the next Afterglow movie, Starship Invasions, from 1977 at 10:30. You know you want to. Back to you, Net Control. KE5ICX.
Thank you for that, Tom. Let's see if we have any additional check-ins. If you would like to check into Skynet, please come now with your call sign, slowly and phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. Not hearing any, so we'll go on. Let's talk about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. We'll start with the monthly meetings. The TAS monthly meetings are held on the 4th Friday of the month, except for November, when they are on the 3rd Friday due to the Thanksgiving holiday, and we usually don't have a meeting in December. The meetings are held at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building, which is Sierra Lima Charlie SLC on the campus map. The best place to park is in Lot H, where we have been given permission to park in orange, gold, or green spaces after 5 p.m. on Friday. You can park anywhere else as long as you choose a green space. Otherwise, you risk getting a ticket. The meeting includes programs presented by members or guest speakers and a slideshow of the current constellation of the month. This month's presentation is by the president of TAS, which is Dr. Larry Ammons, and he is a professor at UTD, and he's going to be talking about ways that we measure the universe. Now, be sure to arrive early to the meeting this month, because at 7 o'clock p.m. we will have an interactive astronomy class. The topic this month is really going to be interesting, is going mobile, digital widgets and astronomical apps for efficient planning and execution of your observing sessions. And I did want to mention that right now, Sky Safari 6, which is a great app for your phone or tablet, is 50% right now, so you might want to check that out. But this should be a great meeting, and that's coming up this Friday. I believe that's April the 27th, 7 p.m. for the beginning astronomy class and 7:30 p.m. for the regular presentation. The Texas Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night beginning at sunset, and every week is at a different location for observing. So to get all of the complete details for the Saturday night you wish to attend, go to texasastro.org, click on the calendar link at the top, and you can get all of those details. Now, normally on the third Saturday, the Star Party would be at Cedar Hill at the J.W. Williams Park. However, because today is Astronomy Day, we held a special event at the Mesquite Planetarium. It was a spring star party. Unfortunately, the clouds kind of took over and we weren't able to have anything on the outside. But the event actually started at 5 and they just finished up just a little bit ago, I believe. And because of the rain, well, it did have a lot of indoor activities, including planetarium dome shows and a number of presentations. They had a meteorite petting zoo and several other things. I also want to mention that we might have a little bit better weather, I'm not sure, but this coming Tuesday, April the 24th, at the Farmers Branch Historical Park, we'll be having our monthly star party there, and it starts at 7 o'clock. And the backup date will be on Thursday the 26th. But that's always a great event. They turn the lights out for us, and it's a very nice facility. All right, now we're going to move on to the National Space Society. So, Bill, in 5BB, what do you have for us tonight?
Very much, Kelley. This is in 5BB with news from the National Space Society, and I got another small item. So, first, today, April 21st, the National Space Society North Texas chapter had a STEM event at the Wilson Elementary School in Capel from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There were kids there from all elementary school ages up through some high school kids. It's a great event. We were kept busy with the kids coming through with their parents, and a lot of fun. Next, some news items. On April the 2nd, SpaceX Falcon 9 launched a cargo mission to the International Space Station. The big the big payload item in there was the Lightning ASIM module. That's Atmospheric Science Interactions Monitor. This is something that was mounted on the International Space Station, and earlier this week, there was a report that initial camera images had been made, so it's operational. It will be fully operational and making regular measurements by late May. This ASIM target platform is a 2-year observing program for the main mission. It's designed to look for lightning in the upper atmosphere. This includes sprites and ELVs, E-L-V-E-S. These are all transient luminous events in the upper atmosphere, some of them over thunderstorms. The ASIM mission has 2 optical cameras, an X-ray camera, and a gamma ray camera. So they're hoping to be able to correlate X-ray and gamma ray emissions with optical emissions from these events. there's a lot of arguments and multiple theories about exactly what's going on, and these are of extreme interest to a lot of scientists because they're very high energy events in the very upper atmosphere. They also may be able to see meteors coming into the atmosphere, and that's all I have on that event. Next thing that happened is Wednesday of this last week, there was a successful launch of TESS, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. This mission is expected to find over 20,000 exoplanets. Currently, there's less than 4,000 known. So it's expecting to find many, many exoplanets in the primary 2-year mission. It's a rather unusual satellite. It's in a highly elliptical orbit. The apogee is similar to the distance to the moon. The perigee is about 108,000 kilometers above the Earth. So to give you an idea, the geosynchronous satellites, which are kind of the highest normal satellites going around the Earth pretty much, have an altitude of 42,000 kilometers. So this is over twice as high as a geosynchronous satellite for the perigee, and the apogee is at the distance to the moon, so it's way out there. And it's going to be looking for exoplanets. A very exciting survey. Then once the James Webb Space Telescope is launched, which is planned in 2020, it will have some good targets to analyze based on the results of this exoplanet survey. So the idea is to find good places to look for Earth-like planets and look for them later with the James Webb Space Telescope. A future event here locally on May the 5th, which is 2 weeks from today, the National Space Society will have a STEM event at the new Girl Scout STEM Center of Excellence at Camp Whispering Cedars. This is located on the same kind of hill where Camp Wisdom is, the scouting camp, but it's kind of on the north or northeast side of that same location, which is in far southwest Dallas. And the National Space Society local chapter will be there, and I will probably be there at that event. One other space-related thing is there was space weather, and there was an event that occurred this last week, and there's a coronal hole that's spent on the sun, and it's rotated around so it's facing us. And there was an event that caused a moderate G2 geomagnetic storm yesterday and today. So we got stuff coming from the sun, which has been hitting us and messing with our magnetic field. The sunspot level is extremely low. That's the space weather from the National Space Society. This is N5BB. Thank you.
Recheck WP5OZL. Go ahead, Brenda.
I just have a couple of quick announcements to add. Netflix just released yesterday a show about the Mercury 13, the 13 women that were undergoing astronaut training when the original Mercury astronauts will. One of those is Wally Funk, and she lives in North Texas, and she has been scheduled to speak at Moon Day the Frontiers of Flight Museum on July 21st. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Thank you for that, Brenda. That sounds very interesting. I would love to meet her dinner, too, by the way. Maybe I will at the Spoon Day. Okay, let's see. This is K5KTX, and let's just do a real quick check and see if we have any additional check-ins, and then we'll move on to the topic for the evening. So if you would like to check in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
So Foxtrot 5, Hotel Mike Sierra, Bill in Grand Prairie.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo, Bravo, a question.
Who's the net this evening? Okay, in the last month, I presented part 2 about the twin Voyager missions, and as a recap, Voyager 2 was launched first on August the 20th, 1977. Voyager 1 was launched on a faster, shorter trajectory on September 5th, 1977. Even though it launched second, this spacecraft would reach Jupiter first, and so it was named Voyager 1. The prime mission brought Voyager 1 closest to Jupiter on March the 5th, 1979, and Voyager 2 closest to Jupiter on July 9th, 1979. Last month, I talked about the Voyager's flybys of Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Tonight, I'm going to wrap up my presentation on the Voyager missions by telling you about the Voyager Interstellar mission, which is the current phase of the spacecraft are in now. Before I do that, somebody over on Echolink is telling me that somebody doubled with me, so if somebody else was trying to check in or anything like that, had a comment, please come now.
So Foxtrot 5, Hotel Mike Sierra, Bill in Grand Prairie.
All right, KF5HMS, I think I already got you on the list. Okay, moving on. So, during its interstellar mission, the Voyagers have cruised gracefully in the solar wind. The solar wind is composed of electrically charged atomic particles, primarily ionized hydrogen, that stream outward from the sun. The interstellar medium restricts the outward flow of the solar wind and confines it within a magnetic bubble called the heliosphere. The spacecraft have focused on collecting data on the strength and orientation of the sun's magnetic field, the composition, direction, and energy of the solar wind particles, and interstellar cosmic rays. The strength of radio emissions that are thought to be originating beyond the heliopause, which is the boundary with interstellar space, and the distribution of hydrogen within the outer heliopause. In May 1993, scientists concluded that the plasma wave experiment was picking up radio emissions that originate beyond the heliopause, the first measurement of the distance from the sun to interstellar space. The planets are, the solar wind travels at supersonic speed, but the pressure from gas between the stars abruptly slows the solar wind at a shock wave that scientists call the termination shock. The exact location of the termination shock was one of the great unanswered questions in space physics. Voyager 1 crossed the termination shock, the location where the solar wind starts to feel the presence of the interstellar medium, on December 16, 2004, when it was about 8.7 billion miles from the sun. Voyager 2 first crossed the termination shock on August 30, 2007, when it was 7.8 billion miles from the sun. Before the termination shock, the speed of the solar wind was about 700,000 miles per hour. After the shock, the speed of the solar wind dropped to about 400,000 miles per hour. After crossing the shock, the Voyager sent home data about the heated, turbulent outer layer of the heliosphere known as the heliosheath. In April 2010, Voyager began to see additional signs of closing in on the heliopause, the dividing line between the heliosphere and interstellar matter. Data from the spacecraft's low-energy charged particle instrument indicated that the solar wind's outward speed had slowed to zero. The spacecraft team commanded Voyager to execute the first roll and hold maneuver since 1990. Data returned after these maneuvers confirmed that the wind had not changed directions. Instead, Voyager had reached a kind of cosmic doldrums where there was very little wind. Then in May 2012, Voyager 1's cosmic ray instrument began detecting yet another sign of approaching the heliopause. These were jumps in the abundance of high-energy particles that originate from interstellar space. Also that same month, the spacecraft began seeing sharp drops in the abundance of lower-energy particles that originate from inside our heliosphere. By 2012, the pace of change increased, and on August 25, 2012, the inside particles finally disappeared and the outside particles hit their highest level to that point. It was a surprise to scientists that the magnetic field direction did not show the abrupt change in direction that they expected. So at the time they first described the changes in December 2012, the scientists did not have enough evidence to say that Voyager 1 had entered interstellar space. The Voyager science team needed data from the plasma environment, and in April 2013, the plasma wave instrument detected oscillations in plasma it had not detected in 7 years. A series of solar storms in March of 2012 had blasted solar material out towards the interstellar space. 13 months later, this solar material reached Voyager 1's location and made the interstellar plasma ring like a bell as the solar material plowed through it. The scientists could tell it had the density expected of cold interstellar plasma. A re-examination of their data revealed an earlier, fainter set of tones from October to November 2012. Extrapolating back, they deduced that Voyager 1 first encountered this dense plasma at the same time the levels of the charged particles changed. Even though Voyager 1 continues to sense some influence from the sun's charged particles and magnetic field, the team was convinced that Voyager 1 was seeing interstellar plasma. The date of interstellar arrival was on or around August 25, 2012. This is K5 KTX. Scientists don't know when Voyager 1 will reach the undisturbed part of interstellar space. Voyager 2 is currently in the helio sheath, and scientists are not sure when it will cross the heliopause, though they don't believe it will be very far behind. The plasma instrument aboard Voyager 1 stopped working in 1980, right after its last planetary flyby. An identical instrument is carried aboard Voyager 2, and it is operational. Voyager 2's plasma instrument provides data on the temperature, density, and speed of plasma. Spacecraft are currently collecting fields and particle data with the cosmic ray subsystem, the low-energy charged particle instrument, the magnetometer, and the plasma wave subsystem. The ultraviolet instrument on Voyager 1 is the only experiment on either spacecraft scan platform that is still sending data back, though heaters around it have been turned off and it is operating at temperatures below minus 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The data the ultraviolet spectrometer is collecting don't help distinguish between the heliosphere and interstellar space. Data from all the instruments are transmitted to Earth in real time, typically at 160 bits per second, and captured by the 34 and 70-meter Deep Space Network stations. After data are transmitted to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, they are made available to the science teams located around the country for processing and analysis. Voyager mission controllers still talk to and or receive data from the Voyagers every day. The signals are very dim now. The Voyager transmits signals at about 20 watts, the power of a refrigerator light bulb. By the time the signals get to Earth, their power has diminished to a fraction of a billionth of a watt. And you can go to the Deep Space Network Now app, which is at eyes.nasa.gov/DSN, and you can see those signals as they come in. It's pretty neat to watch. Flight controllers believe both spacecraft will continue to operate the field and particle science instruments until about 2020. The ultraviolet instrument on Voyager 1 was turned off to conserve power for the other instruments in 2014. Starting around 2020, spacecraft engineers will turn off the fields and particles instruments one by one to conserve limited power, with the last instrument expected to go off around 2025. On February the 17th, 1998, Voyager 1 passed the Pioneer 10 spacecraft to become the most distant human-made object in space. On August 13, 2012, Voyager 2 became the longest operating spacecraft, surpassing Pioneer 6, which launched on December 16, 1965, and sent its last signal back to NASA's Deep Space Network on December 8, 2000. Voyager 1 is the second longest operating spacecraft. As of the start of this net, Voyager 1 is currently 13,135,120,830 miles from Earth and traveling at about 38,026 miles per hour, while Voyager 2 is 10,890,591,202 miles from Earth and traveling at 34,390 miles per hour. I put a link in with tonight's net information that you can go to and get all the updates every day. It is updated about every 5 minutes. And this is K5KTX, and I couldn't leave this topic pass without mentioning a couple of things. First, on February the 14th, that's Valentine's Day, 1990, Voyager 1 took the last pictures of the Voyager mission. Beyond the outermost planet in our solar system, at a distance of about 3.7 billion miles, Voyager 1 turned its camera inward to snap a series of final images that became its parting valentine to the string of planets it called home. Mercury was too close to the sun to see, Mars showed only a thin crescent of sunlight, and Pluto was too dim. But Voyager, by the way, Pluto was still a planet at that time. Voyager was able to capture cameos of Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, Earth, and Venus from its unique vantage point. These images, later arranged in a large-scale mosaic, make up the only family portrait of our planets arrayed about the sun. It was an image from this set that inspired Carl Sagan, the Voyager imaging team member who had suggested taking this portrait, to call our home planet a pale blue dot. After that set of portraits, the cameras on Voyager 1 and 2 were switched off and the software controlling them removed from the spacecraft. There was very little for the cameras to see in the vast dark emptiness of space. Mission managers needed to make space in the memory and conserve power for other instruments that would be able to detect the changes in the charged particles. It would be those changes that would describe what the far reaches of the solar system were like. And then, of course, I have to mention the Golden Record. The Golden Records are two phonograph records that were included aboard both Voyager spacecraft launched in 1977. The records contain sounds and images selected to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth and are intended for any intelligent extraterrestrial life form or for future humans who happen to have a record player who may find them. Those records are considered as a sort of time capsule. Although neither Voyager spacecraft is heading toward any particular star, Voyager 1 will pass within 1.6 light years distance of the star Gliese 445, currently in the constellation Camelopardalis, in about 40,000 years. Carl Sagan noted that the spacecraft will be encountered and the record played only if there are advanced spacefaring civilizations in interstellar space. But the launching of this bottle into the cosmic ocean says something very hopeful about life on this planet. The contents of the record were selected for NASA by a committee chaired by Carl Sagan of Cornell University. The selection of content for the record took almost a year. Sagan and his associates assembled 115 images and a variety of natural sounds, such as those made by surf, wind, thunder, and animals. And to this, they added musical selections from different cultures and eras, spoken greetings in 55 ancient and modern languages, other human sounds like footsteps and laughter, which were Carl Sagan's, and printed messages from U.S. President Jimmy Carter and UN Secretary General Kurt Waldheim. The record also includes the inspirational message per Astra ad Astra in Morse code. And to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the record, NASA partnered with some record companies to produce a 2-disc CD box set and a 3-disc LP vinyl record box that includes the audio content of the Golden Record. And earlier this year, it won a Grammy Award for Best Box or Limited Edition Package. And this is K5 KE5KTX, and there you have it. That is the Voyager missions. Very interesting stuff. Do we have any additional check-ins for tonight's Skynet? If you would like to check in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Let's move on to what can you see in the sky over the next couple of weeks. So, Tom, KE5ICX, what do you have for us tonight?
Hey, thank you, Miss Kelley, and this is KE5ICX, and let's see, I've got some information here from earthsky.org. If you'd like to find the links, you can go to earthsky.org/tonight, or go to W5FC.org, and you'll find the links on the show notes or the net notes that we have. Let's see here. Up on the screen or not tonight, but let me go ahead and read this. So, we have the following. It's Lyrid meteor time. We expect some Lyrid, I'll get it right, Lyrid meteors to fly between late evening on Friday, April 20th until dawn Saturday, and we anticipate Saturday night, April 21st, until dawn Sunday to be even better. Sunday morning, April 22nd, is probably its peak, but try again from Sunday night until dawn Monday, if you're game. So we know we probably won't see any of this, but somebody somewhere will. Tell them to go look if they've got a clear sky. To see the greatest number of meteors, watch in a few hours before dawn on the 21st, 22nd, and 21st. Third, that's when the radiant point, which is near the star Vega in the constellation Lyra, is highest in the sky, and when you're likely to see the most meteors. So for the southern hemisphere observers, because the shower's radiant point is so far north on the sky's dome, the star Vega rises only in the hours before dawn. It'll be lower in the sky for you than for us further north on Earth's globe when dawn breaks. That's why when you see fewer Lyrid meteors, still, you might see a few. Try watching before morning on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Good news for all of us this year, the waxing moon will have set by late night, leaving the pre-dawn hours dark for meteor watching. Some more good news, before dawn you can see the three planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars, plus the star Antares. So if you're looking at the notes, you'll see southeast to southwest before dawn. If you take a look at that, it says the Lyrids aren't the sky's richest meteor shower. You might see as many as 10 to 20 meteors per hour in a few hours before Sunday's dawn. But the Lyrids aren't altogether predictable shower. In rare instances, they can bombard the sky with 60 to 100 meteors per hour. But we're not expecting a Lyrid meteor outburst this year, but even calculating a few meteors before dawn counts as a thrill. Probably you're asking yourself the question, why watch for meteors before dawn? Although there are exceptions, most meteor showers are best in the hours after midnight. The key is the shower's radiant point, in this case in the approximate direction of the star Vega. The star rises over the northeast horizon by around mid-evening from 9 to 10 p.m. local time at mid-northern latitudes. South of the equator, this star rises later in the hours before dawn. The higher that Vega appears in your sky, the more Lyrid meteors you're likely to see. Since this brilliant beauty of the soars to its highest point at or near dawn, the best viewing of this shower is usually around then. Remember, though, you don't have to identify the meteor shower radiant point to enjoy the Lyrid meteors. The meteors radiate from a single point, but they can be seen flying in all parts of the night sky. Like most meteors in annual showers, the Lyrid meteors are the debris of comets orbiting the sun. They burn up in the atmosphere about 60 miles up. Vega, meanwhile, is not really connected with the meteors. It lies trillions of times further away at 25 light years. If you want to watch the shower, be sure to find a place away from artificial lights. Simply recline comfortably while looking in a relaxed way at all parts of the sky. I'll just add a little comment here. Personally, a lot of times we're discouraged because we live in an area where, we get a lot of light pollution. Well, meteor showers are still very visible in the sky anywhere you are, and as we move into the spring and summer months, if we can get away from all these clouds, and when there are meteor showers, you can see them. You don't have to be in particularly dark, although, as was mentioned here, the moon can be a kind of a discouraging factor, but even that may not completely wipe everything out. Let's see, 9:49. I guess I can read the U.S. Naval Observatory part, what you can see in the sky this evening, so I'll go ahead and do that. This information comes from the U.S. Naval Observatory and what you can see in the sky this week. So this is what they've got for us. The moon returns to the evening sky this week, waxing through her crescent phases as she wends her way through the setting winter constellations. First quarter occurs on the 22nd at 5:46 Eastern Daylight Time. Luna begins the week in the company of bright Venus and fading evening twilight of the 17th. On the following evening, she may be found just west of the bright star Aldebaran and Taurus. If you look at her with binoculars, you'll see her embedded with the V-shaped Hyades star cluster. Another binocular target is flanked by the moon on the evening of the 21st. Take your binoculars and look just to the left of the moon for the Beehive star cluster. To round out the week, Luna will cozy up with the bright star Regulus in the constellation Leo the Lion. I'm going to skip the Global Astronomy Month International Dark Sky Week. That will come up later on. Well, it says, all right, as we've mentioned about First Astronomy Day, a global celebration of the night sky, local astronomy clubs, planetariums, and public observatories will be hosting events throughout the world. We do know about the one here in Mesquite just today. Here in the Washington, D.C. area, the Northern Virginia Astronomy Club will host its annual Astronomy Day Star Party, and they mention where in Midland, Virginia, from 3 until 11 p.m. Let's see. Moving right along, the evening twilight sky is where you find the bright glow of Venus, which should appear shortly after local sunset. As the sky darkens, she dominates the scene, and by the end of the week sets at around 10 p.m. She receives a visit by the slender crescent moon on the evening of the 17th, which should provide fine photo opportunity. Jupiter continues to make inroads into the evening sky. This week, the giant planet rises before 9:30, and he should be easy to southeast at 11 p.m. Old Jove is slowly creeping westward among the stars of the obscure constellation of Libra the Scales, inching toward, my favorite star, Zubi Nel Janubi. Yeah, I know, I probably missed a couple of syllables in there. Let's see. The southernmost of the constellation's two bright stars. Jupiter will reach opposition in a few more weeks, at which time he'll be visible all night. Saturn is located near the top of the Teapot asterism in the constellation Sagittarius. He will stay in this general area for the next few months. Just below Saturn, you'll find a small fuzzy patch of light in your binoculars. The most modest telescope will reveal a swarm of countless faint stars that form the globular cluster for Messier 22, one of the finest objects of its type in the heavens. Finally, Mars is now well east of Saturn, and he'll move another several degrees further eastward this week. Earth is closing in on the red planet as we prepare for its opposition in July. Mars' disk is now growing, and this week crosses the 10 arcsecond apparent diameter threshold. This is when the owners of modest telescopes should be able to start seeing details on the planet's distant surface. That's it for me, or actually from the U.S. Naval Observatory and what you can see in the sky this week. So I'm going to send this, the net back to you, Miss Kelley. This is KE5ICS.
Thank you, Tom. This is K5KTS, and I am definitely looking forward to opposition in July. I think the Texas Astronomical Society might be trying to do some events around that, and so I will announce those as soon as I know when they're going to be. All right, let's move on to our featured constellation, which is Ursa Major tonight. So Carolyn, KC5OZT is going to bring us that information. And just as a reminder, if you will go to W5FC.org, you can get links to sky maps and various notes and images so that you can follow along with her presentation. So Carolyn, the net is yours.
Tonight we are going to look at Ursa Major, the Great Bear, one of the best known constellations and the third largest. And it's one of the oldest, like I said. It has a history dating back to ancient times, referenced in Homer, in the Bible, and a great number of tales and legends associate this with the bear. Although in some few cultures it's associated with a camel, it's shark, and for some reason a skunk, and a canoe. And in the Native American tales, the bow of the dipper represents a bear, and the stars that mark the handle are the warriors chasing it. The constellation is pretty low in the sky in autumn. The legend says that it's the blood of the wounded bear that causes the leaves to turn red. And the part of the Dipper that everybody recognizes, the Big Dipper, is one of the most recognizable asterisms. And it's very useful. It points away to Polaris. If you follow the line from Merak to Dubhe, that's pointer stars. To the right, Tom. If you follow this line and continue, you reach the North Star. And an imaginary line that stretches along the handle of the Dipper leads to Arcturus and Bodes. Follow it farther and you find Spica and Virgo. So looking at these, the brightest star is Epsilon, or Alioth, at magnitude 1.76, and this is a star in the bear's tail. It's closest to the body of the bear. And this is, like I say, the brightest. Now, Alpha Ursa Major is Dubhe, D-U-B-H-E, magnitude 1.79, but it's actually the second brightest star. And its name means bear in Arabic. The easternmost star is Alkaid, or Ada, Ursa Major. And its easternmost star, Dipper. It's a young star at magnitude 1.85, but it's one of the hottest stars. It can be seen without binoculars. And if you wonder why the brightest one isn't named Alpha, this is because Johann Bayer named the star Big Dipper from west to east and designated the pointer stars as Alpha and Beta. And then a favorite of everybody is Mizar, or Mizar, the Rosita Ursa Major. It's in the handle. First of all, the Mizar is a system of two binary stars. It's magnitude 2.23. Star ever to be photographed. John Whipple and astronomer George Bond took a photo of this binary system in 1857 using the 15-inch refractor at Harvard. Then Mizar's visual companion is Alcor. Sometimes known as, these two are sometimes known as the horse and rider. They're estimated to be only about 1.1 light years apart. It's just a visual companion. It's not associated with it, but Ursa Major has some interesting stuff. And moving on to some of the deep sky objects. CA territory. First one is M81, known as Bodes Galaxy. It's a spiral galaxy tilted at an angle that gives us a bird's eye view of the spiral structure. It's very similar to our Milky Way, and it's because of its brightness at magnitude 6.9. It's very popular for beginners and professional astronomers, and it is the largest of the 34 galaxies in what's known as the M81 group of galaxies located in the Ursa Major. It interacts with the nearby galaxies, M82 and one called 3077. And this interaction strips hydrogen gas away from all three, and various structures are formed in the group. And it has also caused vigorous star-forming activity caused by this gas falling into the center of M82 and NGC 1087. Sorry, 3077. Can't read very good in that. Okay, our next one is the one we mentioned, the M82. It's known as the Cigar galaxy. And when you see its picture, it's an edge-on starburst galaxy at magnitude 8.4. It has a bright blue disk, webs of shredded clouds, and fiery-looking plumes of glowing hydrogen blasting out of its central regions. And all through the center, young stars are being born 10 times faster than inside our entire Milky Way. This huge concentration of young stars carved into the gas and dust at the galaxy's center, and the superwind from these stars, it turns around and compresses enough gas to make millions of more stars. In fact, 197 star clusters were discovered by Hubble, not on the outside of the galaxy, but in the galaxy's central region. And M82 is the brightest galaxy in the star when observed in infrared light. Okay, and for any any bird watchers listening, I'm thinking of you, Tony. Next is the Owl Nebula. It's M97, a planetary nebula. It's magnitude 9.9, discovered in 1781, and it's pretty obvious it got its name because of its appearance of owl-like eyes when observed through a large telescope. Okay, and our next object is a beautiful M101, the Pinwheel Galaxy. A beautiful spiral galaxy. Seen face on. At magnitude 7.8. And worth because a Type 1A supernova was observed in August of 2011 and contained a number of large, bright H2 regions with newly formed stars. And M101 has some companions. It has 5 notable companion galaxies, and they think this grand design pattern is suspected to be a result of the interaction between the galaxy and its companions. Our next object is, again, Messier, M108, a large spiral. Again, this is magnitude 10.7, and it appears nearly edge on, and it's an isolated member of a galaxy cluster called the Ursa Major cluster. And worth keeping because a Type 2 supernova was observed in 1969. Okay, and since you like large spiral galaxies, we have another one, M109, magnitude 10.6. And again, worth watching because Type 1A supernova was seen as far back as 1956. But it's been the only supernova observed in this galaxy, so it never hurts to keep an eye on it. It has 3 satellite galaxies, and there's a brightest star brightest galaxy in the M109 group. There's another group of galaxies in this constellation that consists of more than 50 galaxies. Final object, this is not a Messier object for a change. It's NGC 5474. It's a peculiar dwarf galaxy, magnitude 11.3, but it's easy to find. It's located near the Pinwheel galaxy, M101, and they think it interacts with it. It's sometimes classed as a dwarf spiral because it shows signs of a spiral structure. So they're not clear on that yet. But as a result of its interactions with M101, its disk is offset from the nucleus, and so is the star formation. The brighter stars are not at the center. So, but it is an interesting object, and I'm sure as Kelley knows, Messier found quite a lot of stuff in this galaxy. So, unless there's any questions, Kelley, I'll turn it back to you. KC50ZT.
Thank you for that, Carolyn. This is K5KTX, and I remember my first year when I went to Texas Star Party back in 2006 or 7. I was just completely overwhelmed with how many stars there were in the sky, and you couldn't even make out the brighter stars of Ursa Major. It was just amazing. But this year, which is just going to be leaving in less than a couple of weeks away, there's a group of us that are going to be using the 36-inch telescope at the McDonald Observatory for a whole night, which should be amazing. So hopefully we'll get a chance to look at some of these great objects in Ursa Major. Let's go ahead and move on to recent astronomical discoveries. So Brenda, WB5OZL, the net is yours.
This is WB5OZL. First article is entitled Meteorite Diamonds Tell of a Lost Planet. Using transmission electron having cat issues microscopy, EPFL scientists have examined a slice from a meteorite that contains large diamonds formed at high pressure. The study shows that the parent body from which the meteorite came was a planetary embryo the size between Mercury and Mars. The discovery is published in Nature Communications. October 7, 2008, an asteroid entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded 37 kilometers above the Nubian Desert in Sudan. The asteroid, known as 2008 PC3, was just over 4 meters in diameter. When it exploded in the atmosphere, it scattered multiple fragments across the desert. Only 50 fragments, ranging in size from 1 to 10 centimeters, were collected for a total mass of 4.5 kilograms. Over time, the fragments were gathered and cataloged for study into a collection named Al-Mahada Sitta, Arabic for Station 6, after a nearby train station between Wadi Halfa and Khartoum. The Al-Mahada Sitta meteorites are mostly uralites, a rare type of stony meteorite that often contains clusters of nano-sized diamonds. Current thinking is that these tiny diamonds can form in 3 ways: enormous pressure shock waves from high energy between the meteorite parent body and other space objects, deposition by chemical vapor, or finally the normal static pressure inside the parent body, most like diamonds on Earth. The unanswered question so far has been the planetary origin of 2008 TC3 uralites. Now, scientists at Philippe Gillette's lab at EPFL with colleagues in France and Germany have studied large diamonds, that's 100 microns in diameter, in some of the Al-Mahada Sitta meteorites and discovered that the asteroid came from a planetary embryo whose size is between Mercury to Mars. The researchers studied the diamond samples using a combination of advanced transmission electron microscopy techniques at EPFL's Interdisciplinary Center for Electron Microscopy. The analysis of the data showed that the diamonds have chromite, phosphate, and iron-nickel sulfides embedded in them, what scientists refer to as inclusions. These have been known for a long time to exist inside Earth's diamonds, but are now described for the first time in an extraterrestrial body. The particular composition and morphology of these materials can only be explained if the pressure under which the diamonds were formed was higher than 20 GPa, that's gigapascals, the unit of pressure. This level of internal pressure can only be explained if the planetary parent body was a Mercury to Mars-sized planetary embryo, depending on the layer in which the diamonds were formed. Many planetary formation models have predicted that these planetary embryos existed in the first million years of our solar system, and the study offers compelling evidence for their existence. Many planetary embryos were Mars-sized bodies, such as the one that collided with Earth to give rise to the Moon. Other of these went on to form larger planets or collided with the sun or were ejected from the solar system altogether. The authors write, this study provides convincing evidence that the Uri-like parent body was one such large lost planet before it was destroyed by collisions some 4.5 billion years ago. The other article is Martian Moons Model Indicates Formation Following Large Impact. Southwest Research Institute scientists posit a violent burst of the tiny Martian moons Phobos and Deimos, but on a much smaller scale than the giant impact thought to have resulted in the Earth-Moon system. Their work shows that an impact between proto-Mars and a dwarf planet-sized object likely produced the two moons, as detailed in a paper published today in Science Advances. The origin of the red planet's small moons has been debated for decades. The question is whether the bodies were asteroids captured intact by Mars gravity, or whether the tiny satellites formed from an equatorial disk of debris, as is most consistent with their nearly circular and coplanar orbits. The production of a disk by an impact with Mars seemed promising, but prior models of this process were limited by low numerical resolution and overly simplified modeling techniques. Ours is the first self-consistent model to identify the type of impact needed to lead to the formation of Mars's two small moons, said lead author Dr. Robin Canup, an associate vice president in the SWRI Space Science and Engineering Division. Canup is one of the leading scientists using large-scale hydrodynamical simulations to model planet-scale collisions, including the prevailing Earth-Moon formation model. The result of the new work is the size of the impactor. We find that a large impactor, similar in size to the largest asteroids, Vesta and Ceres, is needed rather than a giant impactor, Canup said. The model also predicts that the two moons were derived primarily from material originating in Mars, so their bulk composition should be similar to that of Mars for most elements. However, heating of the ejecta and the low escape velocity from Mars suggests that water vapor would have been lost, implying that the moons will be dry if they formed by impact. The new Mars model invokes a much smaller impactor than considered previously. Our moon may have formed when a Mars-sized object crashed into the nascent Earth 4.5 billion years ago, and the resulting debris coalesced into the Earth-Moon system. The Earth's diameter is about 8,000 miles, while Mars's diameter is just over 4,200 miles. The moon is just over 2,100 miles in diameter, about 1/4 the size of Earth. While they formed in the same time frame, Deimos and Phobos are very small, with diameters of only 7.5 14 miles respectively, and orbit very close to Mars. The proposed Phobos-Deimos forming impactor would be between the size of the asteroid Vesta, which has a diameter of 326 miles, and the dwarf planet Ceres, which is 587 miles wide. I think I'll quit there. There's some more, but it's kind of getting late. These are both from ScienceDaily.com, so you can look at the link. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thank you for that, Brenda. This is K5KTF, and we are going to move on to space exploration and space history. And as Bill mentioned earlier, the NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS, launched on the first-of-its-kind mission to find worlds beyond our solar system, including some that could support life. TESS, which is expected to find thousands of new exoplanets orbiting nearby stars, lifted off at 6:51 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. At 7:53 p.m., the twin solar arrays that will power the spacecraft successfully deployed. Over the course of several weeks, TESS will use 6 thruster burns to travel in a series of progressively elongated orbits to reach the moon, which will provide a gravitational assist so that TESS can transfer to its 13.7-day final science orbit around Earth. After approximately 60 days of checkout and instrument testing, the spacecraft will begin its work. One critical piece for the science return of TESS is the high data rate associated with its orbit, said George Ricker, TESS Principal Investigator at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Kelley Institute for Astrophysics and Space Research in Cambridge. Each time the spacecraft passes close to Earth, it will transmit full-frame images taken with the cameras. That's one of the unique things TESS brings that was not possible before. For the 2-year survey mission, scientists divided the sky into 26 sectors. TESS will use 4 unique wide-field cameras to map 13 sectors encompassing the southern sky during its first year of observations and 13 sectors of the northern sky during the second year, altogether covering 85% of the sky. TESS will be watching for a phenomenon called transit. A transit occurs when a planet passes in front of its star from the observer's perspective, causing a periodic and regular dip in the star's brightness. More than 78% of the approximately 3,700 confirmed exoplanets have been found using transits. NASA's Kepler spacecraft found more than 2,600 exoplanets, most orbiting faint stars between 300 and 3,000 light years from Earth, using this same method of watching for transits. TESS will focus on stars between 30 and 300 light years away and 30 to 100 times brighter than the Kepler's targets. The brightness of these target stars will allow researchers to use spectroscopy, the study of absorption and emission of light, to determine the planet's mass, density, and atmospheric composition. Water and other key molecules in its atmosphere can give us hints about a planet's capacity to harbor life. Through the TESS Guest Investigator Program, the worldwide scientific community will be able to conduct research beyond TESS's core mission in areas ranging from exoplanet characterization to stellar astrophysics, distant galaxies, and solar system science. So a pretty neat mission that will be getting started with science pretty soon. And I'm going to move on to space history for this past week, because there were quite a few items here. Starting with April the 16th, back in 1972, Apollo 16 launched from Kennedy Space Center with John Young, Charlie Duke, and Ken Mattingly as the crew. The next to the last Apollo mission to the moon, the objective was landing in the rugged Descartes Highlands. Instruments placed on the moon by Apollo 16 was the first astronomical observatory placed on another celestial body. This far ultraviolet camera spectrograph was developed by Dr. George Carruthers of the Naval Research Laboratory. On April the 17th, back in 1970, Apollo 13 returned to Earth after narrowly avoiding a deadly disaster in space. This was supposed to be the third mission to land on the moon. Astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes launched on April 11th and were 2 days into the trip to the moon when an oxygen tank exploded, and NASA had to abort the mission. And of course, I know all of you have seen the movies, so I will, and you know what happens in the end. So luckily they did survive their re-entry back to Earth and safely splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. On April 18th, just a few years ago, 2014, NASA's Lunar Atmosphere and Dust Environment Explorer, also known as Lady, ended its mission by crashing into the moon. Lady had spent 7 months orbiting the moon and studying its exosphere. The exosphere is a thin layer of gas that's kind of like an atmosphere, but the molecules are more spread out and are definitely not breathable. Lady conducted a lunar dust experiment in which it collected and analyzed the dust particles floating around the exosphere. This experiment was intended to help NASA solve the mystery behind the faint glow Apollo astronauts reported seeing on the lunar horizon. Lady discovered neon in the exosphere, but it wasn't enough to account for the glow, and the mystery remains unsolved. When Lady ran out of fuel, NASA intentionally crashed it into the lunar surface. It was traveling 3,600 miles per hour, crashed, and created a crater almost 10 feet wide. And on April the 19th, 1971, the Soviet Union launched the world's first space station, Salyut 1. This space station was a modified version of the Soviet Union's Almaz space station, which was part of a highly classified military program and was still under development at the time. After NASA managed to put astronauts on the moon, the Soviet Union decided that its next big feat in the space race would be to put a crewed space station in orbit. The first crew to visit Salyut 1 in orbit launched just 4 days after the space station did. However, that crew had some technical problems while trying to dock with the space station in their Soyuz 10 spacecraft, so they went back home without ever actually entering the station. Another crew launched 2 months later on the Soyuz 11 mission, and after a successful docking, they spent 23 days aboard the station. However, during the Soyuz 11 crew's return to Earth, a pressure valve on their spacecraft opened early during their descent. The 3 crew members died during re-entry as a result. Salyut 1 remained in orbit until October 11, 1971, when flight controllers commanded the station's engines to fire and intentionally crash it into the Pacific Ocean. The world's first space station spent 175 days in orbit during its mission's lifetime. And this is K5KTX, and we're going to move into, I guess, the visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. We've got a couple of minutes. Tom, KE5ICX, do we have any good passes in the next few days?
Thank you, Miss Kelley. This is KE5ICX. Yeah, we've got just a few. Let's see here. The Hubble Space Telescope has actually 4 passes. The International Space Station is not in a good position this week, so nothing there. And most of the others are not. So the only one I've got is Hubble Space Telescope on April 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. They're pretty much the same passes as they go through the day. So 1.9 magnitude on the 26th at 21:53 local time out of the west-southwest. Reaches its highest point at 21:56 at 31 degrees, and then falls at into shadow at 21:56 at 31 degrees. Let's see, the 27th. Oh, I did 26. I really want to do 27th, so I'll skip the 30th. We'll do 27th, which is a 1.3 magnitude at 21:42 out of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point about 4 minutes later at 21:46 at 40 degrees, and then falls at 21:46:35. So that one goes into shadow. The 28th, we have 1.2 magnitude, 21:32 again. This is like every night around the same basic time. Reaches its highest point at 21:36. At 43 degrees, there's a little more favorable and falls into shadow at 21:37, about a minute later. And then the 29th, again, 1.2 magnitude, 21:22 this time, reaches its highest point at 21:26. Yawn, this all sounds the same, at 45 degrees, and falls at 21:27 at 32 degrees. Then finally, let me reset. You ready? You've already written all this down before. 1.2 magnitude on the 30th at 21:11, or about 10 minutes earlier than the night before. Out of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point at 21:15. About 4 minutes later, at surprise, 46 degrees, falls into the south at 21:17, at 25 degrees in the east-southeast. So if you're interested, you can always go to heavens-above, that's a hyphen between heavens and above.com, and plug in your coordinates and you can get all this great information. This also works, of course, for amateur radio satellites as well, which, of course, you can use a transceiver and use it to make contacts in states around you and nearby. Or if you're just interested in visible passes, you can certainly plug in just about anything that's out there without using any program. So that's it from me. Back to you, Ms. Kelley. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, for that, Tom, and this would be a good week to get out and try to see the Hubble Space Telescope. On Tuesday, the 24th, will be the 28th anniversary of the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope, and so it might be kind of neat to take advantage of some bright flyovers of that. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Do we have any last check-ins? Anybody who would like to get in under the wire here and check in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving. Hi, Kelley. Kilo Echo 1, India Uniform, Mark in Dallas.
I got N5HYP Tom, and I think it's KE1EU. Did I get that right, Mark?
Kilo Echo 1, India Uniform, IU, over.
Okay, I got it this time, KE1IU. All right, and welcome to the net, by the way. Let's see, let's wrap this up so we can get on to the next net. Tonight we had 21 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So, until next Saturday night, this is K5KTX, Kelley, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evenings discovering the universe. And don't forget about Afterglow coming up right now. This is K5KTX Clear.
Are you listening? Hey, KE5EIU, welcome. We're going to start the Afterglow Movie Net here in about 5 minutes. So everybody take a break and we'll be back. Tonight's movie is the Hal Roach. Yeah, that guy who created Our Gang and Laurel and Hardy did a movie in 1977, actually his son, Starship Invasions. We'll be back in about 5 minutes to discuss the film. See you then. KE5ICX.
All right, time's up. Does anybody need to use a repeater before we begin our discussion of the famous, fantastic Starship Invasions from 1977? I hear nothing. That means people have vacated the building or they have decided to listen in silence. This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom. I'm going to be at control this evening for tonight's Afterglow Movie. Tonight's gem is a fine film from 1977. Yes, here I have the Wikipedia. Now, everybody, think about this film if you've seen it recently, as we do. I do post this stuff over on Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow Movie, on Facebook. Or if you would like to, remind me at the end or during the net that you'd like to be put on an email list instead. I'll do that. I send the updates on the film as to what we'll be watching the coming week, as well as a link if it's available. Some movies are not free. Nearly all of them are available over on the interwebs. This was one of them. All right, let me give you the synopsis about the film. You think about things like the plot, the acting, and the music are the 3 things we usually hit up on. Oh, and the technology, good and bad. So think about those things. I'll tell you about Starship Invasions, which was a 1977 Canadian science fiction film. It was filmed in Toronto, Ontario, and was re-released in the United Kingdom as Project Genocide. What a name. All right, it's a complicated plot. I don't know why it is, because it really wasn't all that good, but here it is. The plot concerns a black-clad legion of the Winged Serpent, a rogue group of human-like telepathic aliens led by Captain Ramesses, played by Christopher Lee. The Legion's home planet Alpha and the Orion constellation is about to be destroyed by the imminent supernova of its star, and Ramesses is leading a small force of flying saucers to Earth to examine its suitability for their race. Performing several alien abductions, they discover they are descendants of transplanted humans, and thus the Earth is perfect for them. They cover their tracks using a device that causes the abductees to commit suicide after a short time. They plan to take over after using a larger version of the device so that everyone on Earth will kill themselves. And you need the second half of the plot here, which is another paragraph. Opposing any attempt to interfere with less developed planets in this intergalactic league of races, a highly advanced group of bald, big-headed aliens from Zeta Reticuli are involved. The League operates an observation base on Earth in the form of a pyramid hidden beneath the ocean. Ramesses lands at the base pretending to be a friendly researcher, and the League reminds him that under the Galactic Treaty, he is to have no contact with aliens. While taking a tour of the base, he is disturbed to see a television broadcast featuring human UFO expert and astronomer Professor Alan Duncan, played by Robert Vaughn. Yes, Mr. What was that show he was in? Oh, yeah, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., discussing Ramesses' abductions. He laughs it off and indulges in the local entertainment. And shag carpet in another part of the underground pyramid. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to read about this. It gets very involved, and we'll see how that all works out. I'm going to take over air check-ins now. If you'd like to join us this evening, come with your call sign, your name. If you'd like to tell me where you're from, that's fine. Let me know if you saw the movie. We'll do low power short time first over air. I'll get to Echolink in a bit. Please come now.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
this is Low Power Short Time. David, W5EBB, over in Dallas. I have to tell you, you have a very loud hum. I think you're plugged into power supply or very close. You might want to move that around a little bit. Are you Low Power Short Time, or are you in for the duration, David?
I am in for the duration. Yeah, I'm trying to plug in a microphone that should improve quality, but obviously I've got some issues to work out. And yes, I've seen half of the movie, W5EBB.
All right, that's probably maybe the better half or the worst half. I don't know which, but we'll call on you later. Your audio is 1,000% better. You're fine now, so whatever you did, stick with it. Okay, we'll take general check-ins. You know the drill. Give me your call sign, your name. Location if you'd like. Let me know if you saw the movie or not. That doesn't mean you can't participate. You can, even if you did see the movie. Go ahead now.
Here is Kilo Echo 1, India Uniform, Mark in Dallas. No, I did not see the movie. Over.
Number 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving, and oh boy, I flocked through the movie.
Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas, and I saw the movie and am not feeling suicidal, amazingly enough.
Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville, and I saw the movie.
Yes. Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Name is Brenda. I'm in DeSoto. And I did see this excellent historical documentary.
So, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas. I did see the movie.
We'll stop there. I'm going to go ahead and recognize check-ins. KE1IU, Mark in Dallas. You didn't see the movie, but be ready. We'll have questions about UFOs and your opinion of them in movies, so stand by. N5HYP, Tom and Irving. Yes, I've got you checked in, and yes, you saw the movie. NT5TM, Tony. Yes. KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn. Yes. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda. Yes. KF5TSK, Burrow in Dallas. Yes. Any additional over air, please come now with your call sign name. Let me know where you're transmitting from. Did you see Starship Invasions, either recently or not? That's okay. Please come now. Hearing none. I'm going to move over to Echolink. If you'd like to join this fine discussion, you're on Echolink. Please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you saw the movie. Please come now. Echolink only.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Jay near Weatherford, and I saw 2/3 of the film.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman, and no, I did not get to see the film.
All right, I'll get those check-ins. KG5BZW, Jay over in Weatherford, yes, he saw most of the movie, but not all of it. KF5PDS, Miss Billy and Sherman, no, she did not see the film. For shame, Billy. Actually, you're the lucky one out of the bunch. Okay, let's go ahead and get started then. I'm going to go ahead and go in order since I usually give Echolink, but I'm going to give them a chance to think about it since Jay was the only one who's... So, Jay, you think about your comments, and I'll start at the top of the list. W5EBB, David in Dallas. You saw part of the movie. What did you think of this fine film as far as the plot was concerned? W5EBB from KE5ICX.
I actually, surprisingly, kind of like this movie so far. The plot is, we've seen it before, but it's got Christopher Lee, but that's for the next subject. But I mean, the plot's reasonable for the sci-fi of the day, I think. W5EBB.
Okay, well, very good. I'm glad you liked the film. And I just got yelled at over back channels here. I wasn't supposed to be net control. Miss Brenda was supposed to be net control. Miss Brenda, would you like to be net control and continue? I've got the list here if you'd like.
Well, yeah, I mean, we take turns, so I'm willing to do my duty, but I wouldn't want to rob you of the pleasure. It's up to you. Just let me know.
Well, I wasn't hogging the limelight. I thought you did it last week, quite honestly, and I guess I'm wrong. So you can see how memorable these films are at times. So sorry about that. I'll just go through the list tonight, and I'll let you do it next week, and we'll critique you then. Sorry about that. That wasn't my intention, but thanks for letting me know. Okay, let's see. We'll do KE1IU. KE1IU. I think I got that right, Mark. Did I mess up your call? Let me know, first off, what we're talking about is UFO films and evil alien invasions, taking over Earth for resources, and killing off the inhabitants. Does that sound like a movie you would like to see, Mark? KE1IU from KE5ICX.
Yeah, KE5ICX from KE1IU. Well, it sounds interesting. No, I haven't seen the movie, and I'm not... I like a good science fiction film, but I haven't seen too many of them. I'm visiting Texas from Connecticut, so I figured I'd join your net since I heard you all on this evening. And I think UFO films are interesting. It prompts the question whether we're alone in the universe or not, and if we ever were visited, what that visitation would be like. I'd rather think it would be friendly as opposed to hostile, but I think it always makes for a more interesting movie when the visitors are hostile and you have some conflict to work out. So, sounds like an interesting film. Maybe I'll take a look at it. I'm going to be checking out because I'm about ready to head to sleep. So, 7-3 all, and thanks for the chance to chat. This is Kilo Echo 1 India Uniform, and maybe I'll talk to one or more of you on HF one of these days. 7-3 all, and back to net control.
Very good, Mark, and welcome to Dallas. I hope your trip and your visit here is nice, and that you get a chance to visit our fair city. I should probably ask you, since it is new call sign when you checked in, welcome to Dallas, and Thanks for checking in. You can also join us over on Echolink if you'd like, through the Echolink node, W5FC.org. I'm sorry, W5FC-R, if you'd like to. 37247 is the Echolink node. We do get folks that check in via that way. All right, sweet dreams. Thanks for checking in. Starship Invasions is not the best film in the world, but if you do get a chance to see it, it's got some pretty good music, but we'll talk about that later. N5HYP, Tom, over in Irving, your comments about this fine plot. Go ahead.
K5ICX in the net. This is N5HYP. Mark, run as fast as you can. Run away from this movie. We had troubles last night with YouTube finding links that worked well and that didn't have long pause periods in the middle. So we as a group, as a family, quit watching and ended up watching the Lost in Space reboot. But I was flocked through the movie this morning. Plot-wise, it felt, in some ways it's very simplistic. Aliens come, take over the Earth. Some other aliens want to protect the Earth. The one doctor, celebrity doctor, who is a big UFO opponent, happens to be one of the people that get visited by the aliens and abducted in order to be able to try to prevent the evil aliens from really taking over the Earth. They used a little bit of sexuality to try to, I guess, entice viewers. Probably those scenes are fairly prominent in the trailers for the movie. Not sure how well it actually did at the box office wherever it was released. We'll talk about the aesthetics later on, but the aesthetics were not helped a lot by the 1950s style effects in a 1970s movie. But I digress. We'll go to that later. K5ICX in the net from N5HYP.
All right. Very good, Tom. I couldn't have said it any better myself, and I probably won't, but yeah. Okay. More to come from you on the aesthetics in this fine film. NT5PM, Tony, you saw the movie. You and Aaron saw the movie. I know you both saw it together. What did you think of this fine movie?
Tom, actually, Aaron escaped. I was waiting for a very long software install to complete on one of my computers, and being bored out of my mind, I figured I would join in the group suffering and kind of like undergoing the hazing and watch this. And the thing is that the movie has got an awful lot of things wrong with it, but I could really imagine there being a good movie that has this plot. People are beleaguered. That we have allies we didn't know we had. We're under threat. And there's something very American, too. You can go back to read newspaper articles from the 1700s. Every generation thinks that violent crime is up and society is going to pot. And so I kind of even like the little tie-in with the suicide crisis, and they had a good fake time cover there. People could blame our violent crime on aliens. That's it. In the world we actually live in, their execution of the plot was just awful. From the intergalactic space hoodies and, the fact that all the bad villains all wear black. I mean, I guess I have some comments on some sort of odd little trivia things I noticed. But they did not live up to their plot. Let me tell you, it was pretty badly executed. What was funny is, like Tom said, I can really picture them using the sexual innuendo to try to sell the movie, except relentlessly bad at it. I mean, when a alien woman is supposed to be experimenting sexually on a human male, I think they see like her ankles and her elbows or something. I think that the innuendo was done better in Metropolis back in 1927. That was great. Eric's chiming in, that was great. They just really did not live up to their plot, which was actually overly complicated for such simplistic acting. So I've trashed it enough for now. I'll trash it more next round at T5TM.
All right, excellent, Tony. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, you saw the movie. What'd you think of the plot?
I agree too. There's a lot of holes in it, you know. It's very simplistic. Really, it seemed more like maybe a made-for-TV movie or a episode of a TV show. You know, it didn't have the grandness that you associate with a movie. And it's classical, good against evil, and the evil even having the serpent that represents evil in the Bible, and on their uniforms, and you're happy that it ended happily, but there was some human interest, you know, with the families of the scientist and the computer expert, but overall, though, it was sort of like I say, sort of simplistic and not a lot of depth to it, I guess would be a good way to put it. KC5OZT.
All right, thank you, Miss Carolyn. I think we're solidifying a general response to this film. WB5OZL. Miss Brenda, your thoughts on this fine film from KE5ICS?
This is WB5OZL. Right. Well, also that year, we had Close Encounters and Star Wars. So the bar was set pretty low already, I think. So it didn't have to be really good to be a wonderful movie. Plot-wise, I admit to having a little confusion as to who was who and who the good guys were and the bad guys and what was going on. And I just, to me, it was a little bit muddy, the plot was. But that being said, I kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't unwatchable and not totally unfortunate. But it reminded me of something. The aliens were making people kill themselves, so that's a good way to get rid of your native population. Just send out this ray and they commit suicide and then the planet is yours. Well, also in 1877, there was a novelette that won the Nebula. It was called The Screwfly Solution. And based on the actual event where we eradicated the screwfly or screwworm. Growing up in Texas, as I did, I was well familiar with these things. They attack the cattle and livestock and game, and they're different from other flies in that rather than eating carrion, they eat live flesh, so they burrow into wounds, and they end up killing the host. So what the Bright Boys did is they sterilized a whole bunch of the males, turned them loose, and in a few years, they had totally eradicated the screwfly. Well, the story centers around these aliens that come to Earth, and they cause the males to murder all the females. So once everybody's gone, you just walk in and take over. And that, being how it was the same year, I just wonder if they stole the idea. Just a thought. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Interesting. Although I think this story has been done and redone a few times with hosts and hats and all that fun stuff that goes along with it. But I have my comments later. K5TSK, Burl, your comments on the plot. Go ahead, sir.
This is K5TSK. Well, actually, I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the movie. And I think the reason why I enjoyed it was kind of like a combination of everything that you know about UFOs, but they really didn't stretch the truth that much. You know, it was like, this is powered by magnetic, electronic, and it's like, well, so what? But, the movie, was interesting. Some parts were boring, I thought. They were just taking up time, but overall, I thought it was a good movie. I've got more comments later. K5TSK, back to net.
Right, I bet you do, Burl. I'm waiting on them. Okay, let's go over to Echolink. KG5BZWJ, what'd you think of the plot on this fine film? We're talking about Starship Invasions. That's not for Jay, that's for everybody else. But Jay, we're about Starship Invasions. What'd you think of the plot?
This is KG5BZW. Well, there is what to say about this plot. There's just no tension to it. I just kept on watching it, and I got so bored that I started playing some video games. But interestingly enough, it kept on flowing, and I could catch what was going on without really not thinking about it, which actually made it somewhat more enjoyable. But back to the lack of tension, I mean, by tension, I guess it just everything seemed to be really predictable. And the tension that I'm talking about is like, well, what happens when you can't predict, and your mind has to explore the whole of what could happen, and there's just none of that to this film. I think I agree with Tony in that there's like elements of a good film here. It just execution-wise, and maybe even just the script itself was just suffered. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. There are definitely enjoyable elements to this film, but I'll comment on that later. KG5BZW, back to net.
Jay, very good, and I suspect that the cat also agrees with all of us on this film. Interesting comment. I think that's quite fascinating. I've got some comments about your comments. KF5PDS, Miss Billy and Sherman, I know you didn't see the movie, but Think of this. It's 1977. UFOs are all the rage. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Oh, that hadn't come out yet. 79, I think. But Star Wars had. What say you about science fiction films involving alien invasions? I'll give you that, even though you didn't see the movie. Go ahead. KFI-PDS from KE5ICX.
Well, yeah, 1977 was a hot year for aliens and all that. And Close Encounters did come out in 77. I just don't know. I haven't looked at the timeline to see when this movie came out in relation to those. But I think it came out after, because I was reading on the page that they had to change the name of this movie several times, because at first they had like War on something, and it's like, no, that sounds too much like Star Wars. And then they had something about alien encounter. Well, no, that sounds too much like Close Encounters. So they had to change the name again to Starship Invasions. So yeah, it was definitely a hot year for aliens, but and I think it's an interesting notion to want to put Christopher Lee into, sci-fi movie that early, because as you know, he ended up being, Count Dooku in the Star Wars franchise. So I think it's interesting I didn't know that he appeared in a sci-fi film, this early, because back then he was all the rage for him to be in the Dracula films and the horror films. So I think that was intriguing. It's just too bad that it sounds like it was really good actors at the mercy of really bad writing. It sounds like very flat, two-dimensional plot devices. And, yeah, if there's no tension and nothing left to the imagination, there's nothing to drive it. So, unfortunately, it does sound like kind of a dud. But with good actors and an interesting plot, I think it is interesting to, when movies use the alien invasion, they're using subtle forces, they're using humanity against itself, to have a weapon to cause us to kill each other or to kill ourselves. To me, that's much more subtle than aliens coming in, guns blazing, and shooting everything up and destroying everything. That, to me, is, kind of more of a horror element and kind of to me, that's a good plot device. It would be interesting if they remade this and cleaned up the plot holes and gave it some tension and did good things with it. But maybe there's movies out there where they've already done that. Because it reminds me of Twilight Zone monsters on Maple Street, when the aliens come and they just play with the electricity and make cars start on and off and just get humanity's imaginations going against each other. And so that, to me, has always been a very intriguing plot device. So, it sounds like it had an interesting concept, just was poorly executed. But at least they had strong actors, Christopher Lee and Robert Vaughn. You have some top-name actors, which would make me want to watch it. So, but unfortunately, it just sounded like it fell flat. So it just never got off the ground. But it definitely came out in the year of two heavy-hitting blockbusters. So it really was kind of, I guess, a non-noise in all that greatness, because that was just the year for those, big sci-fi hits, that this would have just totally gone unnoticed. So they tried, I guess, with the big name actors to give it some draw, but it sounds like it just didn't work. So, but anyway, without having seen it, I really don't have anything else to comment on, but keep me in the loop, and if there's any other generalities that, or other observations that can be made, to tie in elsewhere, then I'm sure I'll have something to say. Anyway, I'll return it to you. This is KFI-PDS. Back to Matt.
And this is KE5ICX, net control for tonight's Skynet. We're talking about Starship Invasions. Thank you, Billy. You actually made some really good comments, which also gave me some comments along the way. Thank you for confirming that 1977 was the year that Close Encounters came out. I will tell you this, it's not like these films are in a vacuum. I was at a convention, how old was I? 18 then? at 19 years old. In 1976, I was 18 years old. I went up to Toronto to go to a convention up there, a science fiction convention. And J. Allen Hynek was there, and he was talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was the technical consultant. He was also a guy that showed up as in a cameo on that film during the encounter, no less, in a lab coat and his pipe. That was J. Allen Hynek. He was one of the science fiction guys, astronomer turned UFOologist. So the movie was well known at the time that it was coming out, and there were heavy hitters and stars in the thing. I think this film was situated in such a way that it would come out and ride the wave of Star Wars, which was also known about but wasn't really thought of as a serious film. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind certainly was. So I can see this as being one of the things that they were trying to do, was cash in on the success of Star Wars and create an interesting plot part of it. The thing about the studio itself is Hal Roach Studios actually did this. It was Hal Roach Jr. Hal Roach Sr. lived to be 100, but he was known for his work on Our Gang series back in the late 30s, and the Laurel and Hardy comedy team out in California, out in Hollywood. That studio went under, but his son took over, or managed to try and keep it open, so they went to Toronto, Ontario to make this particular film. I don't know how many others they did. I think this was probably the first and last project before it collapsed again. There just wasn't enough money, but they were trying to do science fiction. And there were some connections there. Obviously, getting Robert Vaughn and Christopher Lee to star in it was a big deal. And the strongest part of I thought, as far as the plot, it was overly convoluted. It was way too technical for what they were trying to do. It reminded me of a ripoff of Plan 9 from Outer Space to a certain extent. The sexuality that was mentioned earlier, yeah, that was a part of it. It was 1977. Come on over, check out my shag carpet, and I don't know, maybe we could have a couple of drinks. And that's pretty much what happens over on the pyramid underwater thing with Christopher Lee, which was kind of awkward and silly. The idea of the aliens, and Robert Vaughn plays Robert Vaughn, which is what Robert Vaughn does best, playing Robert Vaughn. So he delivers his usual characterization, and is playing the scientist interested in UFO stuff. So he never really took it. Well, that's characterization, but that part was almost distracting in the whole storyline. What do the humans think? Well, we didn't think much, apparently, and Robert Vaughn playing Robert Vaughn really didn't bring us much to the whole thing. Professor Alan Duncan, I don't know, J. Allen Hynek, Professor Alan Duncan, maybe. The Allen part probably with the a different spelling may fall into that. Okay, so that's what I got to say on this round. I got lots to say about the music and the technical pieces and all that coming up. This is KE5ICX. I'm doing net control illegally tonight. Well, I'm legal, but I'm out of turn apparently. I guess I did do last week. I can't recall. In any case, anyone else who would like to check in, who wants to join the discussion this evening, who has not checked in already, we're talking about Starship Invasions. Dare you want to join us? Please come now with your call sign, name, location. Tell us if you saw the movie. Go ahead.
Juliet Delta Whiskey, John N. Coppell. I did not see the movie, but I have one comment.
John, you're late check-in, but that's okay. What's your comment?
I came in there, sorry. Hey, I did not see the movie, but I was listening to Brendan and Billy. Speaking of a person that didn't see the movie, she had a lot of comments. It was good. I was thinking what Brenda said earlier about them introducing like a parasite into the mix, like we've done on Earth. I was thinking that Billy may get her wish and get a what is that when you have a movie spawn another movie? I can't think of what the phrase is called. Sequel. If they did put a parasite in there and what they did it changes the ecology or the ecosystem, so to speak, the ecosystem, and that may spawn another movie. K5 JDW.
All right, thank you, John. And yeah, I'll just interject this. There is a common thing, especially today, with these type of films where there's an alien invasion, is that you offer up something that will mortally wound Earth, or more appropriately, get rid of the humans that are here, because let's face it, plot devices require interaction and activities between folks in order to make that sort of thing happen. And as such, that is kind of become the norm on all of that. I think X-Files did a pretty fair job about being able to do that as well. And then I forgot to mention, I was going to say this, let's see, KG5BZW. Jay mentioned something about everybody kind of being, there's no randomness, there was no unexpected things happening in the film. I agree with that. I thought that was kind of strange, that the regulatory part of all of this just kept going on and on and on. It was predictable and plotting, which makes for not very good drama in the end. We need things messy. We need stuff blowing up in ways that are unpredictable and surprising. When you're in a movie theater, you're expecting that. So I agree with you, Jay. That was a major problem with this film, and I hadn't put my finger on it until you mentioned it, and I realized you're right. Okay, we're going to go to the top of the list. We're going to talk about the characterizations. Was it realistic? Was it believable? Was there problems with the way our heroes and Nemesis handled everything? What about their interactions with all the other characters? Something stand out? Did something really stand out? So, W5EBB, David over in Dallas. Characterization, what'd you think?
Well, one thing about this movie was, and this is more back to plot, the fact that there are actually two different groups of aliens interacting with the humans. One trying to kill us off, the other one trying to help. And that's actually that makes this somewhat unique, because we have most movies, where the aliens are either good or bad, and over the last couple of decades, we've had plenty of both. So, the public, if there is such a thing, we're not really sure what to believe. You have Star Wars, Close Encounters, Alien to counteract the Close Encounters, and E.T., Independence Day to counteract Arrival. It's just back and forth, so it's at least we see both sides in this movie. Yeah, as for characterization as well, Christopher Lee, you just can't go wrong. I mean, he doesn't have to say anything, and he doesn't, except in the recording studio, I guess. He just has to give that ominous look and those piercing eyes, and it's like he's putting a hex on you, just like Dracula. So he was well fit for that role. Robert Vaughn, like you said, he was just Robert Vaughn. But there was one part that was interesting where he's walking alongside whoever that was outside, and he accuses Robert Vaughn's character of pandering to the public's curiosity and desire to want to believe in UFOs. And he counters, well, there are those on the other side of the argument who pander in the opposite way of making people feel stupid for even believing that UFOs could exist. So it's the psychology of it, back and forth, and the direct use of telepathy and acoustics to manipulate humans. That's that's sort of relevant. That's realistic, I guess. It's, that you always have two sides to each conflict, whether you know there's a conflict or not. W5EBB.
Had to find my foot pedal. Thanks, David. Those are really interesting comments. I like that a lot. Okay, Mark has checked out. N5HYP. Tom, characterization. What do you think?
K5ICX the net. This is N5HYP. Characterization. Fairly shallow. You had telepathic aliens that all talked to each other without moving lips, so they didn't have to worry about lip sync issues. You had kind of sort of stereotypical positions. The wife of the professor who's into UFOs is kind of sort of typical of that era for the characterization of the supportive female wife, supported wife. Let's just put it that way. The holes in the characterization, go along with the holes in the plot. And by the way, Tony, at T5TM, somehow along the line your microphone was not pointing at you. You sounded like you were across the room. I've done it before. I've put the headset mic on top of my head. Back to net from N5HYP.
Thanks, Tom. Good comments. This is KE5ACX. Let's go to KC5OZT. Miss Carolyn, your comments on characterization. Good, bad, alien, human. Go.
It was pretty sort of standard. I mean, the villains dressed in black. I mean, well, being villains, whether they were aliens or not. And then the good guys coming in to save everybody, but talking about Robert Vaughn, though, and the scientist, and both him and the computer guy, there's not many that would willingly, go aboard a spaceship, I wouldn't think. Of course, they were probably being coerced a little bit, but but trying to help, and sort of a human touch, they were trying to help, and then like I said before, in all this alien outer space stuff, you had their families and how it was affecting them, and that it sort of added a little bit more human touch, to it. And K5OZT.
Hey, thank you, Miss Carolyn, and I got it. Let's see here. I'm going to break in here. I'm going to put N5YEO Steven. I saw he had tapped something in over on Echolink, and then I don't know how long ago, but I'm going to go ahead and break and allow him to check in, and if he has any comments on Starship Invasions, go ahead and do so, otherwise I'll just put you down on the list. N5YEO Steven over in San Antonio and Echolink. Comments on Starship Invasions. Go ahead. All right, I think we lost him, but I did see that he checked in. I at least acknowledged that. Let's see. PSK, Burrow, plot. Not plot. We're talking about characterization. What do you think? Were they believable, not otherworldly, worldly, or none of the above?
Well, I've got several things to say about that. One, the props were low budget. They look like toys that someone went to Toys R Us and picked it up and said, well, if we spin it fast, no one will ever know the difference. You look at the robots, those uniforms were, the head had those antennas sticking out of it, but they didn't look real. I mean, it looked like something you'd expect from the 1930s. They show the flying saucers, and they really look like saucers without the handle. I mean, how bad can you make it look? The other thing I was going to say is I had two comments on, the women. They have a relaxation room, and the women there, look like Earth women, or I don't know if they were supposed to be, aliens transformed to look like that, but, it was really, sexist that, the relaxation room only had women in it. Another thing I wanted to say was, the women had their hair naturally, but all the men's heads were covered, and it's like, what is that about? That's really something we don't usually see. I guess the computer expert, he only uses 1% of his brain, but then he uses 99%, but he needs a calculator. Where did he get a calculator from on a spaceship? Another thing about the props is the explosions that, they all look like a video game. It's like, and it just showed, I guess, stars breaking away from it. And the radar station, it just looked like someone put it together, went out and bought some switches and dials and says, this is a radar station, we're going to shoot down the missile, and they showed something. KF5TSK back to net.
All right, very good, Burl. Some good comments. Let's see, and I do have comments, voucher comments. Next up, KG5BZWJ over in Weatherford. Your comments on the characterization, the actors. Go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. I wasn't hearing myself on the radio here. So it's hard to say what is wrong, what is right or wrong about the characters, because in my mind, part of the problem with the plot is part of the problem with the characters. And I just didn't really find any of the characters that interesting. Even Robert Vaughn's character. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not that big. I'm sure I've seen him in a few good films, but I don't know. Ramses was kind of interesting, but everything just seemed to go his way. I remind you, I've only seen 2/3 of the film, so I guess when it apparently eventually doesn't go his way, I didn't get to see that. But I just thought the only other thing I can think of is there's a remotely similar plot and the brain from planet Eros. And I just thought that the characters were more believable in that, if that makes any sense. But that's not really a comment on the film. It just, even though that was kind of not exactly celebrated here, I thought that was a better way of handling a good alien versus evil alien, if that makes any sense. I don't know. KG5VCW, I give it back to Nat.
Right. Well, Jay, you can only go so far sometimes with stuff, so further elaboration is just a waste of time. I think you reached the end of your rope when it comes to the characterizations on this film. So I'm with you, brother. Okay, KF5 PDS, Miss Billy. I know you didn't see the movie, but I got to tell you, you had some really interesting comments about the whole genre. What do you think? Can we expand this out a little bit? And what do you think about characterizations of aliens, or maybe you've read the plot synopses? I don't know, but maybe character motivations and things like that. I'm always interested in what you have to say because you bring in a third dimension in two-dimensional films. KF5PDS from KE5ICX.
Well, thanks, Tom. I try to bring a different perspective. So, being that I did not see the film, obviously I can't make any comments firsthand about what I thought about the actors and the characterizations. But, I know Christopher Lee is a wonderful character actor. He always brings a lot to a character, just his presence, and his appearance and his mannerisms and expressions always bring a lot to a character. But even good actors, when they're subject to having to take bad writing and make it work, there's only so much they can do. And like y'all were saying, there gets to a point where there's just nothing else that can be done. But it does sound like, if you have too convoluted a plot, then that also makes it hard for the characters to pull off anything that's believable, because there's so many tricks and turns and ins and outs. If they can't keep up with it, we can't keep up with it. So, there's definitely writing plays a huge part in how actors, take what the writers give them and turn it into more. And if you're not given very much, it makes it very difficult to manufacture a believable character that you can invest in and believe, and for them to know their motivations too. So, I know the motivation of the characters was to kill everybody on Earth so that they could inhabit the planet, which is a very simple directive. But it sounds like, in reading the plot, it did get awfully convoluted, and it's just hard to read. But one thing I was going to say, let's see. Oh, shoot. Oh, I lost my train of thought even. Oh, I know what it was. It sounds like this film maybe needed a little bit of campiness, because it sounds like they were, honestly, the guy was trying to, Ed Hunt was trying to develop a serious film, and he was making honest efforts to really try to make a good film, but it just, sounds like it just fell short. But I found your comments interesting, Tom, about the convention, and that it actually, was planning to ride the coattails of the larger blockbuster films, because, I was a lot younger, so I don't really remember this film being advertised or hyped, or, of course we didn't really, I guess, think of it as hype back then, but, and things weren't hyped the way they are now. Certainly didn't have the build-up and the merchandising and all the advertising and stuff that we have with films today. But yeah, I don't recall any mention of this film or anything. So it's interesting to hear the comments that you were at the convention and heard things about it. So I thought that was really cool. But it sounds like that this film needs some. It'd have been good maybe if it had a little campiness to it to kind of spice it up. Or maybe it's there and just because I didn't see the film, I didn't see it. But just from everybody's comments, sounds like it was like a straightforward, serious film, seriously trying to be made. So there was zero camp. It wasn't meant to be a send-up, but maybe it should have been. I don't know. Maybe that would have made it more fun and made the plot holes a little more enjoyable, or because when you camp something up, you deliberately have plot holes and deliberately have, these things happen. So maybe it should be viewed with some campiness, or maybe they should have injected a little campiness into it, and then it would not be, such a hard film to, it wouldn't have such, I guess, an aftertaste on the palate, the mind's palate, so to speak. Just sometimes, when you see something campy, you expect, bad things or, not such polished things, but so I don't know, maybe they should have camped it up a little. But I do have some comments if you're going to have a special effects round also. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
Good, and thank you, Miss Billy. And you brought up some things. I've got some circled comments. You always bring this stuff up. Now, we had an alien mix-up here. I'm writing notes, and as I do so, I put down call signs and I write down the notes. Well, I reached the end of a page on QC50ZT, Miss Carolyn. I flipped it over and continued writing, and then I went to KF5TSK, only because I had flipped the page over, but I've got a second page that has everybody listed in the order that they checked in. I messed up. I forgot WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, and that's why, because you're between the first and the second page, and I didn't have that continuity. So my apologies to Miss Brenda. I'm going to go ahead and let her speak about characterization. So I know you've got good comments, and I'm sorry I missed you. WB50ZL from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
WB5OZL. That's okay, and you do know I have middle child syndrome, having grown up as a middle child, but that's another story. I thought some of the characters were interesting, and some were just flat. To me, they just totally fell flat, were completely uninteresting, and some of the others were not too bad. The nicer aliens I thought were a little better than the evil aliens. We talked about the pleasure rooms. Yeah, where are the guys in there? I thought that was totally sexist. And I want to know if they gave Farrah Fawcett back her hair when they were done with it, because they were all clones of her. Something curious I read, this isn't exactly characterization, well, maybe it is to some extent, that curious emblem on their chest, the flying dragon, they said they took that from actual reports of aliens. People who said they saw aliens reported seeing that symbol, which I'd never heard that before. It just blows me away. And also that the robots were designed from real aliens. And I'll have to say, those flying hubcaps look an awful lot like the old hokey fake alien films that we saw so many of. Oh, you wonder if they were trying to make something that was realistic. So, okay, I think I'll quit now. I'll have more later. WB50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Miss Brenda. And you beat me to the punch on a couple of your comments, but I'll reiterate them in a bit. Now, my honest confession and messing up worked, except for one thing. I managed to miss Tony as well, NT5TM, and he is on the middle of the page that I wrote on notes before, so I have no excuse. NT5TM, go ahead with your comments on characterization. Good, bad, indifferent, alien, human, robot. Go ahead.
First off, I've put the headset back. Do I sound better now?
Yes, sir. There's no echo, so go ahead. Yeah, your audio's fine.
Okay, thank you. To steal one of Brenda's comments from a past net, this is clearly one of those universes where women are all thrown out the airlock at 25, at least if they're aliens. And plus, isn't it kind of unfair that the human men are experimented on by being seduced by a beautiful alien, and the human women are experimented on by having a large chrome-plated thing jabbed into their abdomen? So that's not very nice. I found a wonderful still that I showed Aaron that completely summarizes the characterization of this movie. It shows Christopher Lee with a very glum look on his face because he realizes that he is, in fact, in this movie. Must have saved a lot of money, as someone else pointed out, to have all the aliens be telepathic so they could just dub their dialogue in later. Not a whole lot to say. I think people have very well covered the pleasure room, which was... so many annoying things. The characters were mostly forgettable, flat, and not interesting, except for one really, really amazing clunker that one of the humans said when the scientist and the computer expert were taken into space to help the good aliens. One of them turns to the good alien and says, "What's your culture like?" Now, what Earth scientist would ask that? Because his whole life, people have been asking him, "Wow, what's that like? What's that about?" And he knows he can't summarize the entire field of electrical engineering in a sentence. So I was half expecting the alien to give him a very snarky answer like, "Our culture is purple with a slice of lemon." And I was sad they didn't. They needed some comic relief there. This is NT5TM.
Thanks, Kelley. Those are good comments, and yeah, no doubt, the whole alien thing and that interaction over in the back seat of the flying saucer. All right, let me tell you this. Well, wait a minute. That's all technical stuff, which we're going to talk about later. As far as characterizations, it's very bad, not all that exciting. It did not work out as well. So I'm going to leave it at that. I do have technical comments coming up, which is my favorite part. So this is KE5ICX, net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. We're going to talk technical for as long as you want to, and then we'll open it up to everything else. So if you got technical comments, and I have a suspicion everyone does, we'll start at the top. W5EBB. David, the technical aspects of this film, what do you think?
Technical aspects, the special effects were, of course, terrible, but I'm going to give him production staff a little bit of a pass on that because after paying for Christopher Lee and Robert Vaughn's salaries and the expenditures for leotards by the costuming department, there wasn't a lot of money left. But at least I now know what that inflatable UFO I saw as a child in the Johnson Smith Company's catalog looks like. They actually did use an inflatable UFO in this movie. But the alien UFO was apparently an upside-down, huge aluminum pie pan. That's pretty much what it looked like. So technically, special effects were pretty poor. But interspersed were some interesting details, like the acoustics signal that triggered the suicide of the farmer. I got out my spectrum analyzer, and that was exactly at 432 hertz. Now, that has some significance if you do a web search, which is why I didn't see the rest of the movie, because I kind of clickbaited myself and started doing these searches. 432 hertz is the alternative that some people would choose for tuning to the key A, which is 440 hertz, which is the standard. Now, the homicidal frequency that they blasted across all of the Earth was 870 hertz. I haven't found any relevance to that. The spacecraft themselves, using levitation, it seemed like, and using tricks of electromagnetism to accomplish that, that sounds pretty plausible. And in particular, at least in the dialogue, Christopher Lee commands the ship to switch the electromagnetic field before they dive into the ocean. And actually, that's probably what you would want to do, because water is diamagnetic, which means it opposes a magnetic field. So, that's reasonably plausible. So I give them credit for that, even if visually they didn't execute well at all. W5EBB.
Amazing analysis. I love it. You get the Geek Award for tonight. That was superb. Okay, N5HYP. Tom, can you top that technically? Go ahead.
This is N5HYP. I'm not sure I can top that. It was, again, because of the low budget, it was amazingly bad. It felt very 50s. It was funny for the 70s. Considering the time frame when we had Close Encounters, we had Star Wars coming out at about the same time. I'm sure Hal Roach Studios, somewhere along the line, heard about those productions coming up and said, we gotta do a space movie, but we got no budget. So what can we do? Now, several things kind of intrigued me. Robert Vaughn's friend, the astronomer who also got abducted with him, got pressed somehow into doing some higher brain calculations for the good aliens, and he was using some sort of, it looked like some variety of a Texas Instrument scientific calculator from the 1970s, because of course those had just kind of cut them out then, and you could get those. And I had one when I was in college. And also when they went to the computer data center to steal parts for the wounded computer on the good alien spaceship, I thought it had to be a telephone switching center, and those were they pulled some cards from the switching racks for I guess the digital circuits of the day. That's what it felt like for me. So from a technical standpoint, that's my geeky comments, and I'm done for tonight. We'll see you guys next week. KE5ICX and the net from N5HYP with Holly on the side. Bye-bye.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. And you are right. I was racking my brain about the racks. I recognize the central office, but you're right. Those were plug-ins. I've been to central offices through the years, believe it or not. Not recently, probably not in the last 10, but prior to that I had. And that's what those were, the pull-out cards, the electronic cards that replaced the Strom units, I think, later on. Okay, very good, 7-3. Let's move on to KC50ZT. Wait, I almost did it again. NT5TM, Tony, your comments on the technical parts of this fine film.
Don't forget Brenda either. There were two fun details in this movie. Early in the movie, we see a radar nodding up and down. I haven't seen a height finder in real life in ever. Old radars used to have those to figure out the altitude of a target. They would find its position with one antenna and its altitude with another. So it was kind of amusing. They had stock footage of a height finder. I guess it was to make it look different. Fun thing, and Tom, this is credit to you. The little spark shooting out of the top of their pie plate, I mean the spacecraft, that's supposed to be broadcasting the suicide rays, didn't look nearly as nice as the purple arcs from the Tesla coils we built at the lecture and lab. So if they had gone to lecture and lab, they would have had a much nicer prop to use that gave a much more futuristic and surreal color. And I too need to shut down. It's pretty late. NT5TM, it's been fun.
All right, Tony. Thanks for joining us. I'll open it up. If you can stay awake longer, you have one final comment. Otherwise, thanks very much. And we'll move on quickly. KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn. Technical aspects of this fine film. Go ahead. This is KE5ICX.
One thing that struck me at the beginning was the way the saucer made the tractor stall, and then later made the car stall. You know, that was a effect that was widely reported about, I mean, real UFOs. And they incorporated that. And some of the computer stuff I wouldn't have understood that, but I don't know, you know, it's like they were drawing on some of the real reports you get that they were getting for, you know, that effect about the cars and everything, and the saucers, when they started destroying each other, that looked sort of, I won't say hokey, but I mean, just crashing into each other and supposedly guided by this aliens, you know, and it just seemed an odd way to fight. Effective, I guess, but odd, the H50ZT.
Oh, agreed. I absolutely agree about the hokiness. You said don't, but we should. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, comments on the technical aspects of this fine film.
WB5OZL. They had a budget of $1 million, Robert Vaughn must have gotten most of that, because their special effects budget was pretty lame, if you ask me. They didn't even try to throw a lot of technology in there, like a lot of science fiction movies do. So, a lot of times you go, well, that's not believable. Well, I don't think they can do that. They just didn't even deal with it. It was really kind of a sophomoric movie in terms of special effects and technology, I thought. We're just going to fly a flag saucer. We're not going to explain it at all. So, I just didn't see a whole lot of technology in there. Okay, back to net, W5OZL.
Got it. KF5PSK, Burl, the technology, tell us.
KF5PSK, I think the biggest thing about their technology is they were able to, copy scenes from other films and kind of sew it in and try to make it fit, but there was nothing that really stood out as exciting or like I said, they didn't do anything that was everything was, I guess, technically reported as a UFO, in every way that it was strange that the aliens that were here originally that, they somehow looked different. They had different uniforms, but on the other side they had the women in the relaxation room, which, like, were they aliens or were they human? But they really didn't spend a lot of money on the film. KF5PSK, back to net.
Thanks, Pearl. And yeah, you're right.
Elvis?
Let's see on everything you said. Next, KG5BZW, Jay over in Weatherford. Your thoughts on the technology in this film? Go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. It's getting a little bit late. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you're talking about, technical aspects or technology, or, goodness. I'm going to just forget about that just because I don't want to focus on technical aspects, and I'm about to go to bed myself. So I instead of talking about technology, I will say I actually loved the music that was in the middle of the film. I wish it was better paced throughout in terms of what I didn't think the music of the whole film was great, but there's some really grooving melodies. I really want to get some of those. But yeah, that's my 2 cents, and I will be listening from henceforth. KG5BZW, back to net.
All right, thanks, Jay. And yeah, I was going to talk about that, the jamming music, which was done by Gil Mallet, and you've heard his music before. He has done films for lots of movies through the years, so they spent some money on this. My Sweet Kara, let's see, TV, Quester tapes, yeah, that one, The President's Plane is Missing, Frankenstein, The True Story, 73, World War III. He is also the guy who composed the music, wrote for the Andromeda Strain. That was another of his films. He also created music for Kojak, Ironside, Night Gallery, Columbo, and I believe, I can't tell you for sure because I'm looking through the thing here, but he wrote the main theme for The $6 Million Man. So, yeah, the vibe was there and you really picked up on it. I love the music. I even went back and listened to it. There's a compilation on YouTube after the film just because I liked it a lot. Let's see, KF5 PDS, Miss Billy, you got anything additional you'd like to bring? Yep, you're still there. I know we're running late this evening. Go ahead, KF5 PDS.
Yep, I'm still here. Yeah, boy, yeah, I would go back and watch it for the music alone. Gosh, yeah, Gil Malay, yeah. I watched all those Quinn Martin productions, you know, in the 70s. My grandmother was real into the cop shows, you know, she liked to watch like the Beretta and Streets of San Francisco and Ironside and all that, and I loved watching Night Gallery, so yeah, that's cool that the music, they got Gil Malay, and if it has that vibe to it, then that's awesome. So that's a good redeeming quality here. One thing I was going to say is, I'm not sure the gentleman who mentioned the 432 hertz, yes, I have fallen down that rabbit hole as well, because I like to listen to meditations and things like that at night when I have trouble sleeping, and I've been known to listen to some binaural beats, you know, for calming effect, and I fell into that reading about 432 hertz. Also, it goes into the grounding of what they call the Schumann resonance of the Earth, which vibrates at around, I think, 7.86 hertz, thereabouts. So 8 hertz is like considered the fundamental frequency of the Earth. And of course, 432 is a multiple. And if you go up, basing the pitches starting with 8 hertz, you get to where I think 256 hertz is middle C, and then 432 is the A, what they call the scientific tuning. And it's very interesting if you go out and look, there are like people that have taken, if you go look on YouTube, there are people that have taken well-known songs, like what if they were tuned to 432 hertz as the A instead of A440, because people say that, you know, that matches the resonance in nature. They say that the DNA replication matches the 8 hertz frequency, and that, you know, just, you know, things in nature operate at that 8 hertz frequency, and that 432 naturally resonates, you know, with the 8 hertz. So it would bring about more healing and calming effects to your mind and body, and that your body would just work better if music was based off of 432 versus a 440 hertz. So I found that very interesting reading as well. So that's interesting that they incorporate that into the film. I also thought it was interesting they used like Zeta Reticuli, which I looked up. It's a binary star. I think it's a visual binary in the southern hemisphere, but it actually has planets, you know, or the star that's kind of like our sun. So if they have aliens coming from that planet, it sounds, you know, at least a little bit believable that it would have an Earth-like sun. So I thought that was kind of interesting when I was reading about the film. But yeah, I've often, being that I'm play music and that I, you know, do mathematics, you know, I involve music and math in my classes, so I often talk about things like that. So I found the 432 hertz thing extremely interesting as well. So with that, I think that's all I've got brain for, because I'm getting tired as well. So I look forward to hearing what we're going to talk about next week. So With that, I'll return it to you. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
FC.
Out. Timer reset. Repeater enabled.
Have not had a Bodes alert in a long time. K5JW.
And that's the point. We did change that. All right, here we go. I was going to simply state, and thank you, Billy, for the comments. Those are really great comments involving the music and all of that. Final comment on the film is that I enjoyed it. I thought the music was great. It is not a very good film, as we found out. I think one of the things that's interesting is that had it had a little bit of humor, it wasn't so dour and sour, it would probably have been better. That was mentioned earlier. So I'm all for that. Maybe a reboot, remake of the thing wouldn't be all that bad. The one thing I did want to mention, technically, on the film, all of the robots that look dorky and dumb, those are actual drawings done by people. I saw that in some film or in some book, probably Chariots of the Gods or something back in the 60s. And so they tried to be faithful in that regard. And that's probably not a good thing because it looks so terrible. All right, any final comments, and then I'll tell you what next week's movie is. Please come now.
VBB.
You're the guy, W5EBB. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to wax philosophic here a little bit as to the pleasure room or whatever that was. Yes, it was sexist. It should have had males in there equally. But I think what that highlights, as did the beginning part of the movie, the susceptibility of people to their more basic desires and instincts. Love, sex, anger, fear. Those are the basic tools, the doorways to access the details of a person's life. Physical, mental, psychological, financial, everything. So it's not like it's out of line to use that as an instrument, as a method, because it will always go on, and they're just highlighting that in the movie that, well, this is what it is, and good or bad, people will. You can take advantage of someone using leverage with those basic instincts. Now, the depiction, the costumes, it reminds me of the 70s, 80s Frank Frazetta. If you're not familiar with him, he's done a lot of cover art, over the decades. And that voluptuous depiction, I think, is period for the 70s, and very popular on Monster Magazine, Fantasy Magazine, that sort of thing. I remember seeing such depictions, and if you've never seen his work, check him out online. Frank Frazetta. His artwork is very unique. And that's all I have to say. Thanks for staying up W5EBB.
Very good. And thanks so much, David. I'm a big fan of Frank Franzetta's stuff through the years, and yeah, it had a big impression on me back in the 70s. And I think you're right, there is some inspiration there. Any final comments? Please come now. Well, that's what we got. Anyone have any suggestions for next week? I know everybody's probably fallen out. If you don't have a suggestion, I've got one, so go ahead. Hearing none. Next week, the fine film Battlefield Earth from 1999 plus one. The year 2000. The year 2000. Battlefield Earth. I'll send out all the updated information tomorrow morning so that you can join in. I want to say 7-3 to everybody. A great discussion. It's amazing how bad films actually garner even more discussion than the good films. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. KE5 ICX. I'm clear. I'm going to bed, everybody. 7-3.
Everyone, and maybe the Lyrid meteor shower will be uncovered for tomorrow night. 73 is KA5 JDW.
ICX, KC50ZT.
Hey, Miss Carolyn.
I was wondering why several times that Echolink just